You know what's funny about collapse preparation? Everyone's buying the same stuff. Gold, silver, Bitcoin, guns, ammo, freeze-dried food that costs more per meal than a restaurant. And if you're watching this thinking, I can't afford any of that, good. Because you just got lucky. Here's what nobody tells you about economic collapse. The people who survive aren't the ones with the biggest stockpiles. They're the ones who become irreplaceable. When currency fails and supply chains break, there are two types of people, those who own things and those who can do things. One group gets robbed, the other gets protected. I'm about to show you the exact skill ladder that transforms you from vulnerable to valuable, and every single one can be learned cheaply or completely free. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. Stuff makes you a target. Skills make you bulletproof. Let me paint you a picture of what actually happens when systems crack. It's not Mad Max, it's not zombies, it's something way more mundane and way more dangerous. It's Venezuela, it's Argentina in 2001, it's Lebanon right now. It's your neighbor losing their job, and 3 months later, standing in your driveway asking if you've got work. Here's the pattern that repeats every single time. First, shortages. Then services break down. Then cash stops meaning what it used to mean. Then people start trading. Food, labor, information, safety, skills. And this is where it gets interesting. The guy with a garage full of supplies? He's stressed. He's armed. He's watching his stuff 24/7 because he knows the second people figure out what he has, he's got a problem. He's not sleeping. He's definitely not thriving. But the woman who can treat infections without antibiotics, the guy who can fix the community's water pump, the person who knows which plants are edible and which will kill you, they get invited to dinner, they get protection, they get offered trades before anyone else. Because here's the secret, desperation creates theft, but usefulness creates loyalty. No one guards a hoarder forever, but communities will fight to keep a healer, a mechanic, a grower. Material wealth can be stolen in 5 minutes. Human capital? That lives in your head. It can't be taken, can't be inflated away, can't depreciate. And in a world where everything else becomes uncertain, the ability to do something valuable becomes the most stable currency that exists. So what actually becomes valuable when systems break? Not what you think. Everyone assumes it's about physical stuff, food, water, ammunition, and yeah, those matter. But here's what history actually shows. Within weeks of any major disruption, it's not stuff that commands premium value, it's access to solutions. The person who can purify water is worth more than the person hoarding bottled water, and because bottles run out. The person who can repair shoes is worth more than the person who stockpiled 20 pairs, because eventually all 20 pairs wear out. The person who can grow food is worth infinitely more than the person who stockpiled cans, because one provides for a season, the other provides for years. Here's your mission. Stop trying to own the most. Start trying to be needed. Because in a collapsing economy, the question isn't, what do you have? The question is, what can you do? And right now, I'm going to show you exactly which skills create that value. Organized as a ladder, so you know exactly where to start. Tier 1, instantly useful. These are your foundation skills. They're not glamorous. They won't make you a hero, but they make you useful on day 1. And that's what gets you into the circle of protection early. Basic first aid and wound care. Picture this. It's 3 weeks into a financial collapse. Your neighbor's kid cuts himself badly on broken glass while boarding up a window. The bleeding won't stop. The nearest emergency room has a 6-hour wait, and they're only taking life-threatening cases. Your neighbor is standing at your door, panicking, asking if you know what to do. This is the moment where basic first aid becomes survival infrastructure. I'm talking about the practical, ugly stuff, applying direct pressure correctly, recognizing when a wound needs elevation, understanding the difference between bleeding that stops and bleeding that kills, cleaning wounds properly to prevent infection, basic splinting techniques, identifying the early signs of infection before it becomes sepsis. During the Siege of Sarajevo in the 1990s, regular civilians with basic medical knowledge became community anchors, because professional medical care was reserved for combat injuries. People with simple first aid training prevented deaths from infections, properly managed burns, and kept minor injuries from becoming catastrophic. That knowledge elevated them from vulnerable civilians to protected assets. This is a weekend course, sometimes free, and the moment you demonstrate you can handle a medical emergency calmly while everyone else is panicking, you've just earned trust that money can't buy. Water safety and purification. Imagine the water treatment facility in your area shuts down for 2 weeks due to infrastructure failure. Suddenly, every single person within 20 miles has the same problem. How do you get safe drinking water without buying bottled water that's now $15 per gallon, if you can even find it? This is where water knowledge becomes liquid gold. Understanding proper storage techniques so your water doesn't grow bacteria. Knowing bleach ratios for emergency purification. Understanding boiling times for different altitudes. Recognizing safe water sources versus ones that will make you violently ill. Here's what nobody talks about. Contaminated water kills more people in crisis situations than violence ever does. During the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, more people died from cholera in the camps than died in the actual earthquake. Why? Water knowledge failed. The person who understands water safety doesn't just save themselves. They become the person everyone needs. Because you can survive weeks without food, but you've got maybe 3 days without clean water. Cooking from basics and stretching food. You're 6 months into economic collapse. The grocery stores still have some food, but prices have tripled and selection is limited. Your family is staring at a bag of rice, a bag of beans, some oil, and whatever vegetables you can find, day after day, week after week. People are getting desperate, morale is crashing. This is where cooking from basics becomes psychological warfare against despair. It's about turning limited ingredients into food people will actually eat. Understanding how to make rice taste different 7 days in a row. Knowing how to stretch one chicken into 4 meals. Understanding spice combinations that make bland food interesting. During the Great Depression, the families that thrived weren't necessarily the ones with the most food. They were the ones where someone knew how to cook. They knew how to make stone soup actually work. They could take scraps and create meals that kept morale high enough that families stayed functional. This skill keeps people fed, but more importantly, it keeps them hopeful. And hope is what prevents communities from tearing themselves apart. Heat and light reliability. It's January. Rolling blackouts are now routine because the grid is failing. Your power goes out at 6 p.m. and doesn't come back until 6 a.m. Temperatures are dropping below freezing. You've got candles, a camping stove, maybe a space heater that runs on propane. But do you know how to use them safely? Do you understand carbon monoxide? Do you know which heating methods will kill you in an enclosed space? Every winter during economic collapse, people die from preventable heating accidents. They burn their houses down with candles. They suffocate from carbon monoxide using the wrong heaters indoors. Meanwhile, the person who understands safe heating practices, proper ventilation, candle safety, battery management for lights, and heat conservation techniques becomes the person keeping their family and neighbors alive. During the Texas blackouts in 2021, the people who understood alternative heating and light methods were fine. The people who didn't, some froze to death in their homes because they literally didn't know how to stay warm without electricity. Basic sewing and repair. Your winter coat tears. Your work pants rip. Your kids' shoes are falling apart. And buying new ones? Either impossible or costs a week's wages. You're watching clothes disintegrate while stores are empty or unaffordable. And you're realizing that clothes isn't a renewable resource unless you can fix them. Basic sewing transforms disposable items into long-term assets, fixing tears before they become unfixable, patching holes properly so they hold, reinforcing stress points before they fail. During the Bosnian War, people with sewing skills became essential because new clothing was impossible to get. They kept entire neighborhoods clothed through years of siege. They could turn 2 damaged coats into 1 functional coat. They could repair boots that were the only thing standing between someone and frostbite. These 5 skills, you could learn all of them in a month for under $100. Most of it's free if you know where to look. and they immediately elevate you from person with needs to person with solutions. Tier 2, Barter Skills. This is where you stop being a consumer and become a producer. These skills create ongoing value. This is where people start offering you trades you can't get any other way. Food growing basics. Imagine it's month 4 of supply chain breakdown. The grocery stores still exist, but fresh vegetables, those are a memory. Prices for produce have gone completely insane. Meanwhile, you've got tomatoes growing on your balcony, lettuce in containers by your window, herbs that keep producing week after week. You're not feeding your whole family from this, but you're supplementing. And your neighbors are noticing. Food growing isn't about having a farm. It's about understanding how plants actually work, container gardening techniques, soil composition and why it matters, seasonal timing so you're not planting things that will fail. During the Cuban Special Period in the 1990s, after Soviet support collapsed, Havana transformed into an urban farming city because people learned to grow food anywhere. Balconies, rooftops, vacant lots, windowsills. The people with growing knowledge didn't just feed themselves better. They became traders, they became teachers, they became community resources. Seed saving and propagation. You've been growing food successfully for a few months. Harvest comes, everything produces, and then you realize next season, where do seeds come from? The garden center is closed. Online orders aren't happening. Meanwhile, you understand that the tomatoes you just grew, they contain next year's seeds, and you know how to save them. This is knowledge that multiplies value exponentially. Which seeds save true and which don't. Which plants need isolation to prevent cross-pollination? How do you properly dry and store seeds? Seed saving was common knowledge for most of human history, but we've lost it. During World War II, victory gardens worked because people understood seed saving. One successful harvest could supply an entire neighborhood for the next season if someone knew what they were doing. Food preservation. August. Everyone's garden is producing. Tomatoes everywhere, zucchini drowning people. And everyone's got the same problem. How do you make this last until winter? You watch your neighbors giving food away because they can't eat it fast enough and don't know how to preserve it. Meanwhile, you're dehydrating, pickling, fermenting, and understanding freezing logistics. Come February, when fresh food is a memory, you're still eating preserved harvest. Food preservation is the skill that bridges the gap between abundance and scarcity. Dehydration techniques that don't require electricity. Pickling that creates food that literally gets better with time. Fermentation that not only preserves but creates probiotics. This is renewable barter currency. When harvest comes and everyone's got excess, you're the one who can make it last until March. Home repair essentials. Your roof starts leaking. Winter's coming. Calling a professional? They're either not available, booked for months, or charging prices that would take half your savings. Meanwhile, your neighbor who understands basic home repair patches it in an afternoon with materials that cost $30. Home repair knowledge transforms houses from depreciating assets into maintainable shelters, fixing leaks before they become structural damage, understanding basic electrical safety so you don't burn your house down, winterizing so you're not bleeding heat. During the Great Depression, handymen could always find work because houses don't stop breaking just because the economy failed. Basic mechanical competence. Gas hits $8 per gallon. Your car breaks down. Repair shops are charging emergency rates. Meanwhile, bikes become primary transportation. Your bike needs repair. Nobody's fixing bikes anymore, or they're charging $50 for a simple fix. You're stuck. Can't get to work. Can't get supplies. Meanwhile, the person who understands basic mechanical principles, they're mobile. They're fixing their own equipment. They're essential. Mechanical competence isn't about becoming a master mechanic. It's understanding troubleshooting methodology, bike repair and maintenance, small engine basics, proper tool use. This is the difference between being dependent and being capable. Tier 3, protection by value. These are the rare skills, the ones that create community status. This is where you become so valuable that people protect you proactively. Advanced first aid. You've moved beyond basic first aid. You understand wound closure alternatives when stitches aren't available. You can manage infections without antibiotics using proper wound care. I'm not saying become an unlicensed doctor. I'm saying learn the theory and safe practice for situations where access to clinics is limited. During disasters, the person with advanced medical knowledge becomes irreplaceable. Systems and organization. Chaos kills more people than scarcity. The person who can organize supplies, build routines, plan logistics, and lead calmly under stress becomes the backbone that keeps everyone else functional. This is about bringing order to disorder. This is a force multiplier for everything else. Communication and negotiation. Under stress, violence prevention through calm competence, de-escalation techniques that stop situations before they become dangerous. Reading people so you know who to trust. Trading without getting exploited. The person who can prevent conflicts is worth infinitely more than the person who can win them. Okay, but where do I actually learn this stuff? I'm going to make this absurdly simple. Red Cross or St. John Ambulance. First aid courses, often under $50, sometimes free. Local community centers and adult education programs, trades basics, cooking classes, sewing workshops. Your public library, gardening books, canning guides, preparedness manuals, and free workshops. YouTube, search beginner gardening, seed saving basics, basic plumbing repair, no power cooking, first aid fundamentals. Local gardening clubs and allotment groups, real-world mentorship from people who actually do this. Volunteer, food banks, community gardens, church kitchens. You learn skills and build networks simultaneously. Here's the secret. Learning these skills doesn't just make you capable, it connects you to community. And community is the actual asset that matters. The guy alone in his bunker with a decade of supplies, he's isolated, he's paranoid, he's one injury away from catastrophe. The person embedded in a network of skilled, capable people, that's actual security. Look, I'm not saying stockpiling is stupid. I'm not saying don't prepare physically. I'm saying if you're broke, if you're watching this because you can't afford the gold and guns and freeze-dried food, you just got the better path. Because stockpiling without skills makes you fragile. All you've done is concentrate value in one location with one point of failure, you. If all you have is stuff, you can lose it in an afternoon. If what you have is capability, you can rebuild from zero. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The world is full of people who bought their way into feeling prepared. They've got the gear, they've got the supplies, they've got the guns, but they don't know how to purify water. They can't grow food, they can't fix anything, they can't treat injuries, which means when their stuff runs out or gets taken, they're just expensive refugees. Don't be that person. If you can't buy gold, become the person people would trade gold to keep around. Here's your homework, and I'm making this stupidly simple. Pick one skill from Tier 1. Start this week. Basic first aid, water purification. Something small, something achievable. Get that foundation. Pick one skill from Tier 2. Commit for 30 days. Start growing something. Learn to preserve food. Fix something broken. Build producer capability. That's it. That's the whole assignment. Because here's what happens. 6 months from now, when everyone else is panicking about prices or shortages or instability, you'll be the person people come to. You'll have options they don't have. You'll have value that can't be inflated away. The collapse isn't coming like a light switch. It's coming like a slow leak, which means you've got time. But only if you use it. Stop trying to buy your way to security. Start building your way there with growing what's between your ears. If you want to be the person with answers, while everyone else is scrambling for solutions, subscribe now. Because I'm building an entire blueprint for thriving when systems fail, and you don't want to miss a single piece. Take care and see you in the next one.